Good day to you all. Today I am going to speak about one of the social contractualists, that is John Locke, and his period was from 1632 to 1704, and he is considered as the father of liberalism. He was a contemporary of Thomas Hobbes and one of the great political thinker of England. He championed the cause of limited monarchy in England. He witnessed both the Civil War from 1642 to 1651 in his early life and also the Glorious Revolution 1688 in his later part of his life. He was a physician by profession but wrote as many as 35 books dealing with different subjects. Founder of a school of thought known as British Empiricism. The social contract theory of John Locke is found in his two treatises on civil government published in the year 1690. He put forward his social contract theory to justify the Glorious Revolution and to reject the theory of absolute monarchy advocated by Hobbes and others. His first treatise on civil government was written to disapprove the royal prerogative based upon the divine right. His second treatise on civil government was a comprehensive and systematic discussion of the origin, nature and province of government. His social contract as human nature, state of nature and social contract, just for our understanding. And his views on human nature is that his conception of human nature is summed up in his work Essay on Human Understanding. Locke did not take a dark picture of human nature as that of Hobbes. Unlike Hobbes, Locke does not express his view about human nature in a systematic manner. John Locke's theory of human nature was that people are naturally rational, tolerant and equal but also selfish. He believed that people have natural rights of life, liberty and property and that the state of nature is relatively peaceful. Locke's idea about human nature and the role of government influenced the American Revolution and the Constitution of United Nations. Locke holds that human beings are basically decent and have been endowed with the natural social instinct. They are essentially peace-loving and not quarrelsome. People are not always selfish. Sometimes they are altruistic also. He considered all human beings as equal in the moral sense and asserts that every individual enjoys certain natural rights like life, liberty and property. He enjoys these rights not because of any position, strength, wealth, etc., but because he is born as human being. He believes that man is a rational and social creature capable of living a moral order. Reason was the main aspect to form civil society. To him, man is not necessarily selfish, egoistic, competitive, aggressive and quarrelsome. He had sympathy, love and tenderness towards his fellow beings. Man wants to live in peace and harmony with others. Locke holds that men are fundamentally decent, orderly, social-minded, quite capable of ruling themselves. He regarded rationality as pervasive characteristic of man. Thus we find the human nature is what Locke gives is very good about human beings. But in the state of nature we see Locke's state of nature was not pre-social but pre-political. Locke's view on state of nature is the logical extension of his view of human nature. He does not consider that the state of nature as the state of war of each against all. On the other hand, he considered it as an era of peace, goodwill, mutual assistance and preservation. The state of nature was not a period of eternal warfare but an era of peace in which reason prevailed, and this reason manifested itself in the law of nature which are based on the principle of equality. Law of nature means a set of rules of human behavior which describes as to how men ought to behave. And state of nature of Hobbes had the following features. Men in the state of nature were rational, social, sympathetic. State of nature was one of peace and goodwill. Men had freedom and equality, but within the limits of reason and mutual respect. Law of nature granted men certain natural rights like life, liberty, property, which with corresponding obligations. And coming to the social contract of Locke, he speaks about two contracts. One is the social contract, the other one is the governmental contract. Let us see what his social contract is. men enter into contract with one another so as to form a civil society, and this contract was of all with all and was a social contract. With this first contract, the state of nature ended and civil society was born. In order to form a civil society, men surrendered certain rights and powers so that at least the remaining rights could be enjoyed. But the surrender of rights was not made to monarch or to any assembly of men, but to the entire community. Locke further said that men did not surrender all his natural rights, but each one voluntarily and willingly surrendered to everyone his single power of punishing, to be exercised by those appointed amongst themselves and by such rules as agreed upon by the community. Locke thus recognizes the sovereignty of the community of people. This contract was thus meant to be only a transfer of certain rights and powers in order to protect and preserve the remaining rights. And the other contract which I spoke about is about the governmental contract, and his second contract was governmental contract. With this contract, a government was established and a ruler was selected to remove the inconvenience of the state of nature. This second contract was subordinate to the first contract, as the government was required only to secure those ends for which the authority was created. The community was superior to the government and the social contract superior to the governmental contract. And therefore, if the governmental authority acted contrary to the civil society, the community had the right to get rid of the government. The authority of the government is limited, and the constitutional and the government depends on their consent. He also speaks about three kinds of power of government, that is legislative, executive and federal, the power to make treaties and handle foreign affairs. If we want to speak about the features of this social contract, state of nature, as just to sum up, the state of nature was pre-political rather than pre-social, and in his state of nature men enjoyed equality, freedom and were guided by sense of reason. Absence of government to make and enforce laws and treaties created inconvenience in the state, so men entered into contract, that is voluntarily. There are two contracts, one is the social contract and the governmental contract. The ruler is party to the contract. Only a few rights are surrendered for the protection of the remaining rights. Law is the expression of will of the people, and it is the law of reason. Consent of people is the source of all governmental authority. Locke gave the community the right to revolt against the ruler if he failed to fulfill the terms of contract, which becomes very important in these days. So we say Locke is very relevant even today. To him, the power of the state is vested in the community. Sovereignty of the state is not absolute, as it has only the power to protect the natural rights. In a state, minority is bound by the will of the majority. Consent of the individual member in the civil society is either tacit or explicit. The social contract is binding on all its members. Just to evaluate, he has given a clear-cut presentation and he championed democratic principles. He applied the concept of constitutional monarchy, and even today the theory of separation of powers is very relevant. He stressed on political sovereignty. He meant government as a trust. And coming to few of the demerits, vagueness of location of sovereignty, right cannot exist in state of nature, views of state of nature is incredible, it is difficult to believe that men entered into two contracts in such a state of nature. Okay? And Locke, widely regarded as one of the most influential Enlightenment thinker and commonly known as father of liberalism, his political ideas, like those in True Treatise of Government, were put into United States Declaration of Independence and United States Constitution. Thank you.